So in this video we're going to look at question 3, which question 1 is your equations, question 2 is the nature of roots. That's usually how it is. And then question 3 is your other algebra topics like exponents and logarithms. So let's quickly look at 4 types of questions I can ask you here. So between exponents and roots. So quickly take a minute and just write down these questions so that you have them. Okay, so the most important thing when it comes to exponents or logs, so basically question 3, is you need to go and find your prime factors. So even if you don't know what to do, you go and find your prime factors. And we do that by using the shift fact function on our calculators. Alright, so if we look at number 1 is quite easy. It's basically one bracket and I have to multiply it in. But before I can multiply it in, I must first make sure, do I have my prime factors? Now obviously 16 is not a prime factor yet. So what do I need to do? I need to go and shift fact that. So I'm going to say 16 into my calculator equal shift and then fact, which gives me 2 to the power of 4. So that's your first step always. With these questions, you always start by getting your prime factors. And now I need to remember my exponential laws. So what do I do with my exponents when there's brackets? I have to multiply them in. Meaning I'm basically going to say, alright, 2 to the power of 4 times 3 over 4. And I'm going to say x to the power of minus 8 times 3 over 4. Alright, so if I put that into my calculator, 4 times 3 over 4 just gives me 3. And then minus 8 times 3 over 4 gives me minus 6. And now you just finish it off. So 2 to the power of 3 is 8. And how do I make a negative exponent positive? I have to move it to the bottom. So it's going to be 8 over x to the power of 6. Okay, easy. It probably counts only like 2 or 3 marks. But the most important one, go and make prime factors. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. Okay, so with question 2, always make sure that your roots are already in simplest form. So for example, if it was 24, I go on my calculator and I put 24 in and I see, oh wait, the simplified form of that is 2 root 6. So you always need to get this first in your simplified form. Now I need to go and multiply this out. So how am I going to do that? Same way, root 3 times root 3, root 3 times 4. So I go firstly on my calculator, I say root 3 times root 3, it gives me 3. Then I say root 3 times 4, and it gives me 4 root 3. Then I need to take my negative 2 and I have to multiply that in. So it's going to be minus 2 times root 3, which gives me minus 2 root 3, and then minus 2 times 4, which gives me negative 8. And now you just check, is there any terms that are similar? Any like terms, enige gelijksoortige termen? Well, here I have a 3 and we have a minus 8. So 3 minus 8 is minus 5. And then here I have 4 root 3 minus 2 root 3, which gives me 2 root 3. Easy, there's my answer. Alright, so roots, always you need to get marks for that. And you can even type that into your calculator and check, did I do the right thing? Do I get the same answer? Okay, let's go to question number 3, my actual exponents, my exponential fraction. Alright, so looking at question 3, now I have a fraction. Alright, so what's important here? Firstly, what do I always start with? I start with my prime numbers. Okay, so I'm going to start with 2. Alright, if I say 2 shift fact, well, it still just gives me 2. So this just stays 2n minus 1. Now if I go to 4, if I shift fact 4, it gives me 2 to the power of 2. But now remember, there was 2 exponents, so you have to put that into a bracket. Okay, and then once again I just have a 2. Alright, so very important, remember your brackets when you are working this out. Then I'm going to do the same with 16. So I'm going to say 16 equals shift fact. And that gives me 2 to the power of 4. And then remember to take your exponents and put it into a bracket. Alright, now my next step after I got that is I need to get rid of my brackets. So I'm going to multiply this out. So I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to multiply it with the n. And I'm going to take the 2 and I'm multiplying it with a minus 1. Same here, I take the 4, I multiply it with n. And the 4 multiplied with 1. So if I calculate this, it gives me 2 to the power of n minus 1 times 2 to the power of 2 times n is 2n. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 times 2 to the power of n. Then at the bottom, I'm going to say 2 to the power of 4 times n is 4n, and 4 times 1 is 4. Now it's usually here where you guys get stuck. Now remember, what comes first? I need to now figure out my multiplication. And what do my exponents do when I multiply? They add. So basically, I'm now going to add all of these terms together. So I'm going to say n minus 1 plus 2n minus 2 plus n. Okay. And then I can ask myself, alright, what does this give me? Well, n plus 2n is 3n, plus n gives me 4n. Then minus 1 plus minus 2 gives me minus 3. Over, there's nothing at the bottom multiplying, so I'm done with that. And now I'm at my last one. So what are these two doing? They are dividing. And when they divide, what do my exponents do? They subtract. So basically, I'm now going to say, okay, what is 4n minus 4n? It's going to give me 0n. And then what's minus 3 minus 4? And that gives me negative 7. And to make this positive, I have to write it as 1 over 2 to the power of 7. And then you can also just go and calculate, alright, what is 2 to the power of 7? It's going to be 1 over 128. Right, so how do I do this? I first start by getting my prime factors, multiply out my brackets. If there's multiplication in between, I start adding my exponents. And if there's a division, I subtract my exponents. Alright, so let's look at the last one for your exponents, which is question 4. Okay, so looking at question 4, it looks the same again. So my first step will be get my prime factors. Alright, so this is just going to say 2. So 2 to the power of x plus 1 plus 4 becomes 2 to the power of 2. Remember your bracket for your x. And then at the bottom, I just have 2x bracket 2. Right, now step 2 says multiply out my brackets. So I'm basically going to take this 2 multiplied with x, and I'm going to take this 2 and multiply it with a x. So it's going to give me 2 to the power of x plus 1 plus 2 to the power of 2x over 2 to the power of 2x. Okay, just quickly make a correction for me on this question. This has to be 2 to the power of 2x plus 1. I wrote it down incorrectly. Okay, so 2 to the power of 2x. Alright, now I get to this point. Now obviously in my previous question, I had multiplication signs in between. So I knew I could add. Now what do I have in between? I have a plus. There's no exponential rule for a plus. So what do I need to do? I need to factorize. I need to find my common factor. Alright, so I need to find the common factor. So now I ask myself, what looks the same there and there? What looks the same in front of my plus and after my plus? Well, the 2 to the power of x, right? So what can I remove? 2 to the power of x. When you make your bracket for what's left. Now remember, you're not cancelling your base. Alright, because that 1 still needs a base. So what am I left with? I'm left with 2 to the power of 1 plus, if there's nothing left here, then I put a 1. And now I see, oh wow, this 2 to the power of x can cancel this 2 to the power of x, and I'm only left with my bracket, and that will give me an answer of 3. Alright, so these are your 4 types of exponential and root questions they can ask you. Usually it starts with a simple one, where you just have to get the prime factors, then you get your root question, then you will have a multiplication question, and you will have a adding or subtracting exponential question.